Hey everyone, it's Bortato here, flying solo today, so I figured I would make a guide on your first character that you should make in Qud. Now, I'm sure there's other people who have other suggestions, but whenever you're playing a roguelike, usually the go-to for beginning characters are a somewhat durable melee build. And I wanted to work you through one that I've kind of cooked up and I think works well for beginners. So when you go to start the game, after I actually click on the right window, you get to create a character. Now, Truekin, they might seem tempting, but for now we're going to go with mutated humans because they have some more flexibility, and that's what we need for starting things out. Now, the first thing I always do when I make a build is I put everything to 16. This game doesn't really have true dump stats like you can have in other roguelikes. Everything has a use to a point. Some people have argued willpower is the least useful because there's not a lot of mental attacks in the game that are seriously threatening. I just put it to 16 just in case. You can lower it a bit if you want. Generally speaking, there aren't serious mental attacks anywhere until mid-game at least, and probably further. So as a beginner, you're not going to live that long, not a worry. Now, we're doing a melee build, so of course we're going to want to put points into strength. Points into toughness. Pretty much everyone needs toughness in this game because of the amount of effect it has on your hit points. And yeah, we'll just put our strength up to 20 there because that's going to be helpful for our meleeing. Now, as far as mutations go, we're going to be taking the Carapace. That gives you a guaranteed armor slot that's upgradable. That's great because it takes out a lot of the luck, and it's also going to make you less insta-bursty in the early game. There are some enemies that if they run up next to you, they can kill you very quickly if you're not aware of it. It's just to take a bit of frustration out. Be warned though, if you see a slumberling wake up, it will kill you. So no matter how much armor you have for that stage of the game, realistically speaking. The next thing that we're going to take is Freezing Hands. This thing synergizes great with melee builds. It gives you a reliable ranged weapon that doesn't have to worry about pen, and it doesn't have to worry about your agility to hit. And it also, after it hits level 2, it can freeze things solid pretty frequently, especially in the early game. And that allows you to guaranteed land your hits, which is great because you don't have a ton of agility since you're pumping strength instead. Now, the next thing that we're going to go for is we're going to go pick up the defect. Honestly, defects are weighted kind of weirdly right now. I think the easiest one to deal with for anyone is amphibious. You can always trade for water. Like ravenous, not quite so much because you sometimes can't find food, but everyone has water because it's the currency. So amphibious is pretty good, and it gives you 3 points. Now we're actually going to dip a little bit, and we're going to take something called teleport. This is important because we have freeze for dealing with moderate threats. We're just going to melee everything that's not threatening at all. But we don't have anything, well, the game has landed an endgame boss beside you. What do? Teleportation is incredibly powerful, and it's worth the 5 points, because you can teleport across the screen, you can teleport to a set of stairs and run, you can just get the heck out of Dodge. Now, because we took Amphibious instead of any of the 2-point traits, we have 1 extra point left to spend, and honestly, a lot of these aren't very important. We don't need night vision because the range isn't really high enough. I'm not comfortable using it personally anymore. Slime glands aren't terribly important. We've already got freezing hands. Thick fur gives a little bit of resistances, and you can upgrade it if you have the points. Kindle lights a tiny fire. I thought it would be useful, but I really hate that ability now. Sense Psychic is pretty much completely useless. I don't know why it's in the game. I mean, you get to find out that horses are psychic. That's useful. I usually grab Telepathy because there's something in the early game called Glot Rot that you can get. It rots your tongue out, which makes it extremely expensive to trade. My theory is that Telepathy actually allows you to trade without having that penalty. I'm not 100% certain because I haven't gotten Glot Rot since I started taking it. The last game where I got Glot Rot, I've been avoiding it quite a bit. So, that's all the mutation points we've got. Now, on to class choice. These give you a little bit of skills and a little bit of ego. For this playthrough, I'm going to suggest that you take the Argonaut, mainly because it starts with random artifacts, and you'll see why that's important later. Short blades are also good for dual wielding, which you'll want to do after you get a floating glow sphere, and it gets you started on Tinker, which is nice, because Tinker is really expensive, and it's really good too. But if you start without it, you feel really bad because you need to spend like 6 levels worth of skill points to get the Tinker started. So, this is our beginning Blender character. You'll notice that our agility got topped up a little bit. It's useful. Got the extra strength, all the mutations we need. Alright, you can enter a manual world seed if you want to. You don't have to. It's up to you. It's just for fun. If you enter the exact same thing, you will run into the exact same world. If you want to do that, fine. It kind of goes against the concept of roguelikes for me, because dealing with the randomness is really part of the game. And of course, you can name your character. My beginning blender. Beautiful. So once you get into game, a couple more tricks and then I'll let you go. If you talk to these guys and you do the water ritual, they give you a little bit of reputation with them. And this is important because you get the harvesting ability when you've done all 3 of the people who are tradable. Harvester is great because if you harvest the yellow trees, you get witchwood bark, and it acts as a healing potion that can confuse you. Confusion's not the end of the world as long as you remember where the enemy was and you just keep whacking them, but that heal is a big save. Spend your extra reputation point on secrets. Sometimes they tell you an area of a legendary mob that you can go and kill, possibly steal as legendary loot. Other times they give you secrets that you can just trade to other places for reputation. And there's more skills than just harvestry that can be taught for reputation, so it's well worth investing in that. So the next thing we do, make sure you close the door, ransack the village. Take all the stuff that you can from the chests that I'm going to show you, because if the doors are shut, it's just free stuff. The one thing that not everyone might know, oops, grab the door, is that the trader isn't part of the village. He's just kind of sitting in a hut randomly, which means that this chest can be looted from and he won't get angry at you. So now that that's done, I'm going to go to the next spot, which is I'm going to take the quests that they originally sent you to Red Rock for, but because we already have the knickknacks, or the artifacts basically, we can just send them over. Now, metal folding chairs are the most useless thing on earth and I hate them, but it's worth examining your other artifact before you give it over, especially with this particular class. You're probably not going to break it, so you don't need to worry about that. And that just identifies it, so when you see it later, you know what it is, rather than buying it because you're curious. Alright, so we've now given him both artifacts, and the really important part, this gets you level 2. The reason why this is important for this particular build is because Freezing Hands is useless at level 1. But if you level it up just 1 point, a lot of early game enemies get frozen by it, and that is what you need out of that skill. So we also have skill points, which you can access through the P menu, and I'm going to suggest that you grab Butchery. Food becomes an issue after you're done the Rust Wells, which is your second questing area after you go to Red Rock. And Butchery just takes care of it completely. Because a lot of creatures, salt hoppers, boars, if you walk over them, you get a bit of food. That's really useful as soon as you get out of early game. Which might take a couple tries, don't worry, that's how roguelikes work. And if you've played other roguelikes before, you know it can take a couple hundred tries to really get to end game and truly beat it, but that's fine. That's part of the fun, to live each character's life. Alright, so I forgot to get his last quest. And that quest sends you to the Rust Wells, which is the second questing area. Don't need to worry about it quite yet. Now the last thing we need to do is we need to get the original quest. Just ask the farmer about work, and he'll send you to Red Rock. And you gotta get to the bottom and kill a Gershling down there. So, the last thing we need to do in town, I'll show you the world map. If you find the Zealot, just grab his quest, because you'll go to Stilts at some point. If you trade the Warden, he has a pre-generated glow sphere. And the nice thing about Argonauts is they start with lots of stuff that they can sell, and they also start with lots of water. You really don't need a lot of water on you. The water, by the way, is indicated by the $59, for whatever reason. That's the number of drams of water you have. Honestly, you can probably get away with as low as 20 drams of water when you go on a little adventure. I like to keep it around 50 or higher, but you'll usually find water as you adventure. Anyway, buy the glow sphere, sell off your random junk that's not important. Remember, any of the body slot items that you see, we can't wear it, so there's no point having it. That's a back slot, and this is a hand slot, so that's good. Actually, we got free armor. So, it's also important to take stock of what you actually have equipped. Bronze dagger's fine. Don't want a failed energy relay. I want a glow sphere in my hand. I can sell the torches for a bit of extra money. Already I've got a cap on my head, which means a little bit extra armor class. And I believe we had gloves. Oh, right. You can't wear gloves on this class. That makes me look like an idiot. But anyways, I don't usually play with Icy Vapor. Forgot about that. Beyond the point. So we've already got our AV up to 4. We got our freezing ability to the point they can actually freeze people. You can go and talk to the trader over here and see if he has anything useful and interesting to buy. You can also use it to unload. Generally speaking, the good thing about trade goods is they have a static value, so you can resell them at exactly the price you bought them. You're going to want to make sure that you have some bandages, because bleeding can kill you. You might want to try and spend all your points and get something fancy, like you get a steel weapon if he has one. So, there's lots of stuff that you can do with the early trader, depending on your luck with the whole thing. We got lots of stuff to sell, so that should be fine. Especially, we can sell this stuff early on. Anything that has a letter beside it is pretty common as far as scrap goes for when you get into tinkering. Anything that has a number gets a little bit rarer. So I'll just sell the lettered scrap for now. And that puts us down to 11 grams of water. That's a little low for my taste. So I'll top it up by selling off our excess weapons. There we go, 26. Beautiful. So the last thing, and this is, I wasn't certain I was going to get one to actually show you. If you get something that's painted or engraved, look into it. Tells you more stories, and sometimes they reveal locations, sometimes they reveal quests, other times they reveal stories that I believe can be traded for reputation at other places. It's just always examine painted items. And so when you're on the world map, you're not going to want to travel this way. You're going to want to travel by land, because when you're on the world map, you use a ton of energy, ton of food, and that becomes a huge problem, especially in the early days. But you can press L to look around. So this is your starting location. It's north, so you're going to head up until you find it. You'll notice that the legendary croc I found the location of by trading secret is over here. That's a little early for me. I'd want to finish the red rock first. And then after you've done red rock, there's the rust walls over there. So when you go to red rock, you're going to actually go up to red rock, go all the way down. You'll find Gershling and a cultist. And then if you follow the river south until it ends, it'll be called the waterlogged tunnel. You're going to run into a useful artifact called the global, I think, an anti-gravity sphere. And it'll also lead back up into the town over here. So you can actually go the back way if you want to. But this exact location here, you have to get close to actually see it, takes you down to the end of what Red Rock would be. But I suggest doing it, go to Red Rock first, go down, come back. Because it's going to mess you up pretty much, unless you're really ready for it. You'll find a lot of monsters that are above your starting level, generally speaking. And last point, just remember when you get to the end of the waterlogged tunnel, you need to go up like 4 levels to get up to here. So you'll have to fight a little bit more. Anyway, so that should be everything that you need to get started. Get out there, get your ass kicked, come back, give it another shot. And if anyone has any opinions or thoughts on this little starter build, let me know.